The truest power is wielded in the quiet act of disappearing, a departure so seamless it feels like the air itself has been stolen from their lungs. You left no chaos in your wake, no messy goodbyes or lingering threads, just the sharp, clean edge of absence cutting through their reality. Each attempt to pull you back only tightened the noose of their own desperation, every unanswered plea reverberating into the hollow space you left behind. Your silence wasn't just an absence, it was a statement, a mirror reflecting their own helplessness, forcing them to confront the void they never thought you could create. Your departure was not just an absence, but a masterstroke of transformation, a deliberate unraveling of their perceived control. You dismantled the fragile structure of their entitlement, replacing it with a raw, unrelenting need that they could no longer ignore. The space you left behind became a gravitational pull, an invisible force that reshaped their every thought and emotion. What once was casual and complacent was now desperate and consuming, their world reoriented around the void you created. In losing you, they didn't just lose a person, they lost the illusion of power they thought they held, now forever bound to the emptiness that redefines their existence. Your silence was a verdict, not born of malice, but of inevitability, as if the universe itself conspired to sever ties that no longer served its balance. It descended upon them like the fall of a great kingdom, sudden, absolute, and irreversible. They clawed at the remnants of what once was, grasping for threads that no longer existed, only to find ashes slipping through their fingers. This was not a gesture of anger or spite, but the fulfillment of a higher order, a cosmic justice that demanded the scales be righted. Your absence was not a wound, but a reckoning, a final act that left no room for return. Those who once thrived on your light, mistaking your brilliance for an eternal flame, were forced to confront a truth they never anticipated. A force like yours is neither bound nor beholden. You departed with the quiet ferocity of a tidal wave retreating, leaving nothing untouched, nothing unchanged. There was no plea, no negotiation, only the resolute clarity of your worth and the unshakable knowledge that you owe nothing to those who fail to see it. Your withdrawal was not merely a physical act, but a cosmic shift, a recalibration of energies that left their world unmoored. They now linger in the shadow of your absence, tethered to the memory of what they once took for granted, haunted by the void that remains. You do not diminish yourself for the comfort of others. You do not stay where your value is questioned. You are not a lesson. They are simply unprepared for the magnitude of your existence. The finality of your absence was a reckoning, swift and unyielding, striking with the force of inevitability they never imagined. It was the kind of lesson that blindsides the unprepared, the kind that rewrites the script before they even realize the story has changed. They had braced themselves for storms they could weather, for conflicts they could negotiate, for departures softened by hesitation, but you gave them none of that. Instead, you delivered the quiet devastation of an exit so resolute it left no room for denial or repair. It was not cruelty, but a mercy they could not comprehend, a clean severance that exposed the weight of what they had taken for granted. And in the silence that followed, they came to understand the magnitude of what they had lost, too late to undo the lesson you had become. Now they exist in the shadow of what was, consumed by the ache of your absence, a void that no substitute can fill. The wound festers, not from neglect, but from the cruel irony that the cure lies in what they can no longer touch. And yet, instead of bitterness, their loss has birthed a relentless fixation, a reverence sharpened by regret. They dissect every memory, every glance, every silence, desperate to pinpoint the fracture, to rewrite the ending that was never theirs to control. But there was no single moment, no glaring mistake, only the unrelenting truth that their failure to rise to your level made your departure inevitable. Now they are trapped in the labyrinth of their own making, haunted not just by what they lost, but by the realization that they never truly deserved it. To stand in the presence of power and fail to honor it is a mistake that echoes long after the moment has passed. They thought time would soften your resolve, that the door you closed would crack open again, offering them a second chance they had not earned. But you do not reopen what has already served its purpose, nor do you linger where your value was overlooked. Your silence was not a pause, it was a verdict, deliberate and absolute. At first, they dismissed it as fleeting, a storm that would eventually pass. But as the days turned into nights, and the nights stretched into an endless void, the truth began to unravel. Your absence was not an empty space, it was a force, a creeping weight that pressed into every corner of their mind, tightening its grip with every passing moment. It was not just the loss of you that haunted them, but the realization that they had been the architects of their own undoing. At first, they clung to denial, drowning themselves in noise and distractions, convinced they could outrun the void you left behind. But the emptiness was relentless, seeping into every corner of their existence. The things that once brought them joy now felt muted, lifeless, as if the very essence of the world had faded with your departure. Their triumphs rang hollow, their laughter echoed with no depth, and every fleeting moment of satisfaction slipped through their fingers like sand. What they once dismissed, they now yearned for with an ache they couldn't name, because they finally understood. They hadn't lost just a person, they had lost power, presence, and purpose. The realization struck like a thunderclap. You were never playing their game. You were the force they underestimated, the storm they thought they could weather. And when they finally grasped the seriousness of your absence, their carefully constructed world crumbled, leaving them with nothing but the weight of what they could never reclaim. The chosen do not waver, for their choices are rooted in an unshakable understanding of their own value. You did not falter because to hesitate would have been to question the certainty of your worth, a certainty they failed to see until it was too late. Your absence was not just a void, it was a reckoning, a force that dismantled the fragile illusion of control they clung to. What they once overlooked, what they dismissed as ordinary, was the very thing that anchored their existence. You were the quiet strength beneath their chaos, the unseen foundation that held their world steady. And now, without you, the structure they built has collapsed, the cracks spreading faster than they can repair. It was never built to last without you, because it was never built to stand on its own. Your departure was not just an ending, it was a cataclysm, a seismic shift that shattered the foundation of their reality. It was as if the universe itself had split open, leaving them exposed to the raw, unrelenting truth of what they had lost. The chosen do not merely walk away. They reclaim every fragment of their essence, every spark of energy that was once so freely given and so carelessly overlooked. What you took with you was not just yourself, but the light that illuminated their world, leaving behind a void so vast it swallows every attempt at distraction or solace. They do not hate you for this. They cannot. Instead, they are left in awe of your power, of the way your absence speaks louder than your presence ever could. You are the storm they will never forget, the hunger they will never sate, and the lesson they will carry forever. The loss has reshaped their world, carving out a truth they can no longer ignore. You were never theirs to keep, only to cherish. In your absence, they've come to realize that not all voids can be filled, not all wounds can be numbed. You were not just a part of their life, you were the thread that held their reality together, woven so deeply into their being that even their thoughts betray them, circling endlessly back to you. Every attempt to move forward feels like a futile gesture, as though the universe itself conspires to remind them of what they lost. They search for you in the faces of strangers, in fleeting moments, in the hollow echoes of their distractions, but nothing compares to the irreplaceable essence you left behind. You were not just present, you were imprinted, a sacred mark etched into the fabric of their soul. The distance has not softened the impact. It has only magnified it, turning absence into obsession. What they once dismissed as ordinary has become extraordinary. What they once overlooked has become untouchable. You are no longer a person to them. You are a myth, a memory, a force they cannot escape. They sift through the fragments of the past, turning every glance, every word, every fleeting moment into a puzzle they can never solve. They search for answers in the silence you left behind, desperate for a resolution that will never come. But you are not theirs to understand, not theirs to define. The chosen ones do not linger in the past, nor do they pause to offer clarity to those who refuse to see when the truth was right before them. You are not a relic to be analyzed or a memory to be clung to. You are a force in motion, ever evolving, untamed. While they remain trapped in the echoes of what was, you surge forward, unstoppable, untouchable, leaving behind only the undeniable weight of your absence. They cling to the memory not out of love, but out of desperation, because to let go would mean confronting the undeniable truth. They will never find another like you. You were not just a source of comfort, you were their lifeline, their sustenance, the divine energy they consumed without gratitude. But the chosen ones are not meant to be diminished, to be drained by those who only take and never give. You were never theirs to keep, and when you reclaimed your light, you did not leave them in darkness. You left them with the reflection of their own emptiness. In the void you created, the truth emerged. They were never whole without you, and now, without your radiance, they are forced to face the shadows they tried so hard to ignore. They were never whole, never steady, merely fragments held together by the gravity of your presence. You were the foundation they built their fragile illusions upon, the silent force that kept their carefully constructed facade from crumbling. Without you, the truth emerges. The mask falls, the cracks deepen, and the hollow core of their being is exposed. They are left adrift, scrambling to find another anchor, another source of strength. But nothing can replace what you gave. The emptiness they feel now is not just the absence of you. It is the weight of their own unacknowledged void, a fix they will never find, because it was never about you. It was always about what they lacked within themselves. They chase fragments of you in others, grasping at shadows that can never hold the same light. Every attempt to rebuild what was is futile, for the foundation was never theirs, it was yours, a reality sustained by your grace alone. But the chosen ones do not dwell in ruins. They do not rebuild what was never meant to last. You have moved beyond their reach, beyond their longing, leaving them to confront the emptiness they tried to mask with your presence. They may wander endlessly, seeking to fill the void with hollow imitations, but the truth is unyielding. What they lost was never replaceable, and what they seek can only be found within themselves, a truth they are not yet ready to face. There will never be another like you, and deep down, they know this. You were not just a fleeting presence in their life. You were the rare and unrepeatable force that shattered their illusions and illuminated their emptiness. Now, in your absence, they grasp at fragments of what you were, hoping to piece together something that might quiet the ache. But nothing fits, nothing compares. What you brought into their world was not ordinary, not replicable. It was sacred, and they squandered it. The chosen ones do not linger in the shadow of others' regret. You do not wait for apologies or explanations, for you have no need for what they now offer. Their longing cannot reach you, their sorrow cannot move you. While they remain tethered to the past, drowning in the weight of what they lost, you rise, untouched, unshaken, and utterly untamed. The path to enlightenment and greatness begins with the choice to take responsibility, not just for yourself, but for the world around you. The Lumination Inner Order is a sanctuary for those who feel the call, for those who know deep within that they are meant for more. It is a space for seekers of truth, for those ready to embrace their power and create change from the inside out. Every shift you make in your life, no matter how small, ripples outward into the world. Your influence is far greater than you realize, and the energy you carry has the power to inspire transformation in others. Just as the world reflects your inner state, your actions and mindset shape the reality around you. Imagine the impact if every chosen one, those who strive for greatness, self-awareness, and compassion, stepped into their power, Together, we could reshape the world, one life at a time. This is not just a message, it's a movement. A reminder that your journey matters, that your growth is a gift, not only to yourself, but to everyone you touch. So embrace the responsibility of being a chosen one, and let your light guide others. Join our warriors of the chosen ones to increase our numbers and help the world move from darkness into light, because each and every one of you matters. The world is waiting for you, and the change starts here, with you. So, subscribe, like, and share to spread the message and amplify the light. The chosen ones do not depart in haste or anger. They leave with purpose, with the quiet understanding that their role has been fulfilled. Their departure is not an act of spite, but of liberation, an acknowledgement that the chapter has ended and that their energy is no longer meant to linger where it is no longer needed. There is no anger, no vengeance, only the unshakable truth that not all connections are meant to last. What remains is a void that cannot be filled, a haunting absence that echoes louder than their presence ever did. Those left behind are left to wrestle with their own shadows, their own choices, as the chosen ones move forward, untethered and unburdened. The past is no longer a weight they carry, and the certainty they once provided has dissolved into a memory, a reminder that their light was never meant to be possessed, only experienced. The chosen ones do not depart in haste or anger. They leave with purpose, with the quiet understanding that their role has been fulfilled. Their departure is not an act of spite, but of liberation, an acknowledgement that the chapter has ended and that their energy is no longer meant to linger where it is no longer needed. There is no anger, no vengeance, only the unshakable truth that not all connections are meant to last. What remains is a void that cannot be filled, a haunting absence that echoes louder than their presence ever did. Those left behind are left to wrestle with their own shadows, their own choices, as the chosen ones move forward, untethered and unburdened. The past is no longer a weight they carry, and the certainty they once provided has dissolved into a memory, a reminder that their light was never meant to be possessed, only experienced. The moment you withdrew, the balance shifted, sudden, permanent, and undeniable. They had mistaken your presence for permanence, assuming you would always remain within their grasp, always available to their whims. But the chosen ones are not bound by the expectations of others. You do not linger in places where your value is ignored or your energy is drained. You are not a second chance, nor a fallback option. Your absence speaks louder than your presence ever could, a silent declaration of your worth, a power they can feel but will never reclaim. Now, as they reach for the echoes of what they lost, you move forward with unwavering strength, unshaken by their regret. In your withdrawal, you have created a boundary they cannot cross, a space they cannot penetrate, a testament to the unyielding force of your self-respect and the freedom of your untethered soul. You didn't just walk away, you imprinted yourself on the very fabric of their reality. The chosen ones do not merely leave, they transform the spaces they once occupied, leaving behind an indelible resonance that cannot be ignored. Though you no longer exist in their world, every shadow, every silence, every fleeting moment carries the weight of your presence. Their mind, once at ease in your light, now wrestles with the void you left, a void that refuses to be filled. They try to erase you, to drown your memory in distractions, but their attempts only deepen the imprint you've left behind. Your absence is not a void. It is a force, a reminder, a mirror reflecting what they lost and can never reclaim. The harder they fight to escape your energy, the tighter they become ensnared in its grip, unable to break free from the fortress you unknowingly built within their soul. You are no longer there, yet you remain everywhere. The chosen ones do not chase, nor do they cling to what has been left behind. Your energy transcends time and space, carving its permanence into the minds of those who once stood in its glow. They do not revisit the past out of longing, but out of desperation, grasping at fragments of a power they never truly understood. It wasn't the moments or the memories they cherished. It was the unshakable force within you, the quiet strength that held their chaos together without them ever realizing it. Now, as they struggle to decipher the essence they once dismissed, they find themselves sinking deeper into the very energy they failed to honor. What they seek cannot be reclaimed, for it was never theirs to hold. Your power was a gift, fleeting and transformative, and its absence is a lesson they must now bear alone. Their struggle is not with you, it is with the void you left behind, a chasm they cannot cross nor fill. Every effort to sever the ties only tightens the grip of their longing, not for your return, but for the solace they once found in your presence. Yet the chosen ones do not regress. You do not step backward into spaces you have outgrown. You have ascended beyond their reach, leaving them to wrestle with the fragments of themselves that only came alive in your light. Their yearning is not truly for you, but for the reflection of their better selves that only existed in your orbit. Now, exposed and vulnerable, they are forced to confront the truth. You were never theirs to hold, never a possession, but a force of nature, an unstoppable storm that reshaped their world and left it forever future changed. While they cling to illusions, trying to rebuild a reality that no longer includes you, you remain steadfast, grounded, and unshaken. The chosen ones do not falter under the weight of absence. They are the architects of it, the creators of the silence that others cannot endure. Where they spiral, you ascend, untouched, unbound, and unstoppable. The storm they endure is the echo of their own choices, a reckoning born from the neglect of what was once sacred. Their descent into chaos is a reflection of their failure to see, to honor, to value what stood unwavering before them. But their turmoil is not your weight to carry, nor their unraveling your responsibility to mend. You stand sovereign, untouched by the turbulence they created, for your energy was never meant to be bound by fragility or diminished by their blindness. You understand the magnitude of your power, and in walking away, you did not act from anger or sorrow, but from a place of divine clarity. It was not rejection, it was realignment with the path meant for you, a path that cannot be shaken by the storms of others. The chosen ones are not driven by fleeting emotions or the chaos of the moment. Their steps are deliberate, aligned with a higher purpose that transcends the understanding of those who once sought to confine them. Your departure was not born of resentment, nor was it a ploy to provoke or teach. It was an act of knowing, a recognition that the chapter had reached its inevitable close. The void you left behind is not a wound inflicted, but a mirror held up to reveal what was always there, hidden beneath denial and complacency. In your absence, they are forced to confront the truths they refused to see, the lessons they ignored while you stood before them. And as they grapple with the weight of that revelation, you move forward unbound and unwavering, carrying the quiet certainty that your path is no longer theirs to share. You were the anchor, the quiet strength that held together what they falsely believed was unshakable. Without you, the facade collapses, and they are left to sift through the ruins of their own disregard. They underestimated the depth of your resolve, expecting your absence to be temporary, your composure to falter, your spirit to bend beneath the weight of separation. But the chosen ones are not made to fracture, they are made to rise. While they stumble through the chaos born of their own neglect, you remain steady, unshaken, and ever evolving. Your growth is their undoing, your stillness a mirror to their instability, and as they fall apart, you ascend higher, untethered by what once tried to hold you back. You are not paused, not hesitating, not glancing over your shoulder, and that is the wound they cannot heal. Your detachment is not coldness, it is the embodiment of true power, the kind that stands firm without the need for validation or revenge. They now see far too late that what they thought was control was nothing more than a fleeting illusion, that their presence in your life was never a right, but a gift they failed to cherish. As they claw at the fragments of meaning in a world where you no longer exist for them, you move forward, steady, untouchable, unstoppable. Your absence was not their end, but the catalyst for their awakening, a transformation born from the void you left behind. While they struggle to find balance, you ascend with grace, proving that your power was never tied to them. It was always yours. The chosen ones never fade unnoticed. Their departure is a ripple that disrupts the very fabric of what once seemed stable. When you stepped away, the delicate balance they clung to crumbled, leaving them face to face with the truths they had long buried. You were never merely a presence. You were a revelation, a mirror that reflected their deepest fears and unspoken flaws. In your absence, the illusions they wrapped themselves in dissolved, leaving nothing to shield them from the raw, unfiltered reality they had spent their lives avoiding. Now, in the silence you left behind, the truths they ignored roar louder than ever, demanding to be faced, while you continue forward, untouched by the chaos of their reckoning. The chosen ones teach not through speeches or explanations, but through the undeniable power of their absence. In losing you, they were thrust into a reality they had never prepared for, one where the familiar is fractured and the predictable is no longer guaranteed. You were the exception to their rules, the force they could never fully grasp, a presence that challenged their illusions and redefined their sense of control. Now, in the void left behind, the noise of their distractions has quieted, and they are left alone with the stillness of their own unfulfilled growth. Your absence has become their reckoning, a mirror reflecting the spiritual stagnation they ignored for so long, while you continue to rise, far beyond the confines of their understanding. They clung to the illusion of control, convinced that they held the reins of the connection, unaware that the chosen ones are never confined by the limits of false authority. Your departure was not a conclusion, but opening, a gateway to a realm they had never dared to venture into, a space where comfort dissolves and truth begins. You were never merely a part of their life. You were a divine force, a living lesson they were too blind to value. In your absence, they are left to navigate the uncharted territory of their own depths, realizing too late that your presence was not just a gift, but a catalyst for their awakening. The chosen ones are not passive participants in the lives they touch. They are catalysts, forces that dismantle illusions and bring hidden truths to light. They mistook your presence for something constant, something they could take for granted, failing to realize that access to you was never a right, but a sacred privilege. The chosen ones do not remain where they are undervalued, and your departure was not born of anger or impulse. It was a deliberate act of alignment with your higher purpose, a silent declaration that their time and your energy had expired. Now, as they stand amidst the ruins of their own ignorance, they are forced to confront the reality of who you truly were all along, a force of transformation they were never prepared to honor.